What up, everybody? This is your boy Dedrian Colon from House of Wrestling, and this is my review for the October 7th episode of WWE Smackdown. Yes, the season premiere of WWE Smackdown. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification so that way you are notified when the House of Wrestling drops its latest content. Follow me, Dedrian180, on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. Man, this episode of WWE Smackdown was very interesting. For a season premiere, top to bottom, throughout the whole show, there was a nice fluid pace. There was a few things that were just like, still need to tighten up the screws. Something that's a phrase that's commonly used in professional wrestling. But it was a pretty fun show. The main event was awesome. But definitely there were a lot of references for the White Rabbit. There was a commercial. Opening segment, Triple H had a QR code, and that video went to a video of a piglet and the words and audio of "Let Me In." So, kind of know it's no secret who it might be. But yeah, tonight's episode of SmackDown was pretty interesting. Not in a bad way, but in a good way. And it's like, all right, it's a fun show Friday night. All right, let's enjoy it. But before I do that, I'm gonna get you guys the results. So we had Solo Sikoa in the opening match defeat Ricochet. We had Raquel Rodriguez and Shotzi defeat Xia Li and Sonya Deville. We had The New Day and Braun Strowman defeat the Usos and Sami Zayn. And in the main event, Gunther retained the Intercontinental Championship against Sheamus. So that is the results for SmackDown. I'm surprised there wasn't another match, because usually there's like around, there's 2, 4, there's 4 matches. Usually there's like 5 matches. They only had 4, and one match was like 5 minutes or something like that. So it was very interesting. But no, I like this episode of SmackDown. The only drawback about this was, it's very minor, was the women's match. That was one thing that I really didn't care too much for. It felt very rushed. It didn't feel like, I don't know, it just didn't connect because it felt so rushed and just like, all right, we got to get this out the way and then move on to the next thing. And it just really, I don't know, didn't connect with me. But getting to this show, it opened with Triple H in the ring, and they announce him, and he gives this really interesting quote. And it was, there will come a time when everything will be final, or something like that. And then he mentions that, and it's just the beginning. Like, it was a very interesting quote where it's like, okay, what message is he trying to convey to the audience? And it was just like, yeah, let's get back to that one. So as he's speaking, he's, welcome to SmackDown. Like I said earlier, he turns the microphone around and there's a QR code, and it's like, ooh, okay. And that's when everyone, surprisingly, very few people like posted the code, because like on Monday everybody was just tweeting and posting, tweeting the code and the video and everything. It was like very few people and outlets like really tweeted the code and stuff like that. You just, hey, this is the video, boom, that's it. So I think it's more so because tomorrow is going to be WWE Extreme Rules, and it's like, okay, we kind of know who it's going to be. So it's like, all right, just tell us who it's going to be. Tell us who it's going to be without telling us who it's going to be. And that's what they're basically doing right now. And tonight they did that. So as he says that, music hits, Bloodline comes out. Sami Zayn is it's crazy to say this, but Sami Zayn is the star of the Bloodline. Especially tonight. This was hilarious. This guy has great comedic timing, great storytelling timing, and the story that they're telling between him and Jey Uso is so interesting, and it can go in so many different directions, and it's so cool, and it feels like it's been a long time where WWE has had a storyline where you had two characters where the story can go in so many ways, and people are into it. For so many years, it's just been, one guy, oh, we're in, you get into it, and then they change, and of course that was Vince overseeing everything. So now with Triple H, it's like, all right, I can get into this one or two characters. So of course Roman acknowledged me. Then Logan Paul comes out, and he comes out to a loud reaction of boos, and kind of brought it on himself. If you guys didn't know, he did mention in an interview that, of course, with Logan Paul and the whole thing with him being in Puerto Rico and the getting tax breaks and stuff like that. So he kind of threw Bad Bunny in there, like, yeah, he gets the same tax breaks that I do. So he's, behind the scenes, he's getting, the same tax breaks that I'm getting, and that whole thing. And it did not, it was, a lot of people are like, okay, we're already getting this angle, this whole stuff from AEW, Sami and Andrade, and AEW, is it a work, is it a shoot? And then it's like, for a couple minutes, people are like, is it a work or a shoot? And everyone's like realizing, like, no, this is not anything with WWE. He's like doing this. So the last time Logan Paul was on, TV, you saw that there was more cheers and stuff like that. But after that interview, which was, I think, yesterday or something like that, it flipped. And as I'm watching this, I'm like, holy crap, like, is Logan Paul inadvertently going to turn the bloodline into faces because of this? Like, oh my God. So he comes out, there's a whole bunch of Logan Paul sucks chant. Roman looks at him, he tells Paul Heyman, I like this, it's smarting this man up. And Heyman calls him a male Kardashian, and I'm like, damn, that's a good one. That is a good line. That is a very good and creative line to use. Then there's a bunch of Uso chants. And then, as is going on, of course, you got Jey Uso. He's riled up and hot-headed. And that's something that they really played into this episode. And they really emphasizes that Jey Uso is the hothead. Like, he's the one that's, just very, like, actually, a great comparison is Jey Uso is the Raphael of the bloodline. And if you guys don't know my reference, if you know the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Raphael was always the hothead. So Jey Uso is the Raphael of the bloodline. And you have, he's hothead, and you have Roman and him have this like stare down. And lo and behold, Sami Zayn is the one who intervenes and gets them all together, and we're the bloodline. And he starts ripping on Logan Paul. He called Logan Paul a 2. He's like, we're the ones, but you're a 2. And at first it's like, you see Roman try not to laugh. It's like, what the hell is this guy saying? And then he looks at Logan Paul and he says, yeah, you're a number 2. And then it's like, did he just call him shit? Like, what? Like, oh my God, Sami Zayn is freaking crazy. So that happens. They leave, and then you have the Solo Sikoa Ricochet match, which was, it was a solid match. It really showcased, like, they're really heavily leaning into Solo Sikoa's power and just being a machine in the ring. There was my favorite point of the match was pretty much the end, because Ricochet performed his usual 450, and Solo Sikoa like kind of caught him and had him, and then he turned that into the spinning solo for the win, 1, 2, 3. So that was really cool. But the match was, a lot of the matches tonight, and in WWE, and I'll get to the AEW stuff later in another video, but a lot of the matches are very. It was really hard to gauge the match. Like, oh, they're into it. It was good. It was good. Maybe that was me. I don't know, but it was really difficult to gauge the match. None of these matches were bad, mind you. For SmackDown, AEW Rampage, and Battle of the Belts, none of the well, let me rephrase that. Most of the matches weren't bad. It was just, I don't know, just something didn't click. Okay, I'm trying to use another word, but I'm not going to use it. But just didn't come together. So we get a backstage segment with the Bloodline and Sami Zayn. They're all sitting around, and Sami Zayn's talking, and he's talking to Jimmy Uso, and he's like, "Man, you guys need to work this stuff out." And Jey Uso and Sami Zayn, they're going back and forth, and Jey Uso's like, "That's my brother. I could do this. I could do that." And Roman Reigns, he goes off on, he's like, "Man, you're a hothead. We've been dealing with this from the beginning, such and such." And Roman Reigns looks at Sami Zayn, and he's like, "Yeah, he was our problem, but guess what? Now he's your problem." So now Sami Zayn has to oversee Jey Uso, which is like, oh my God, this is so funny. This is going to be so entertaining to see how this plays out. Of course, one way that people are thinking it's going to end is they're eventually going to kick Sami out, and then Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are going to fight the Usos for the tag team titles at WrestleMania, and then they're going to win. And that's what most people are thinking that it's going to go. But as this is going on, like me personally, I don't want to see Sami Zayn leave anytime soon. Even when we get to Royal Rumble, I do not want to see him leave because this is so damn good, and we haven't had anything this good with a faction or any wrestlers in years. Like, man, you could probably say the last thing that we've had this interesting that was kind of like funny and just intriguing was probably Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens, the Festival of Friends and stuff like that, which was so corny. Like, what? Now, mind you, that was corny and everything, but it was just, it had that entertaining aspect of it. And this, with Sami Zayn with the Bloodline, it is very entertaining. Then we get a backstage segment, of course, a Hit Row coming to the ring. Then we get another backstage segment with the Usos and Sami Zayn. They're walking. This was freaking hilarious. So they run into the New Day, and Xavier and Kofi Kingston looks at Sami Zayn, and they look at Jey Uso, and they're like, "Oh, wait, now you got two daddies." And Sami Zayn, they look at Sami Zayn, and they're like, "You're not the, what was it? You're not the stepdaddy. You're the step up daddy." And just, man, they were just rolling. Like, you have to watch that segment. It was hilarious. And then, of course, Sami Zayn challenged him. He's like, "What? Face us three, and you find your partner. We'll face you in the ring tonight." So they do that. So later on in the night, they have their 6-man tag, what I'll get to later. Then you have Hit Row. They come out to the ring, and then all of a sudden, these Maxmen with suits on attack them and everything, and they beat them up. Then you have B-Fab. She gets attacked by a blonde-haired woman, which is Selena Vega, which was already reported earlier in the day that she was going to make her debut, and it was pitched that she was going to be with a certain group, which, when they took off their mask, it was Legado del Fantasma from NXT. And impressive debut, but the biggest question out of that is what's going to happen with Elektra Lopez. Like, she was a part of Legado del Fantasma. So what's going to happen with her? And of course, looking at this group debut on SmackDown, of course, there's a lot of speculation surrounding with the AEW side of Andrade wanting to get out of that. Reportedly, okay? I'm going to tell you that. Reportedly. It's not fact or anything, or it's true or anything. It's just rumors and reports and speculation that he wants to get out of there and go to WWE. So it's like with this group, kind of furthers that whole discussion as far as Andrade, WWE wanting to come back and stuff like that. So it's real interesting. Selena's whipped him, so it's like, things could get very interesting depending on what we see transpire in the next 3 months, 3 to 4 months. So very interesting. It is going to be interesting to see Hit Row take on Legado del Fantasma, because there's 3 guys, and in Hit Row there's only 2 guys. And what's cool about this segment that happened between Hit Row and Legado del Fantasma is they do have history in NXT. Most people who didn't watch NXT don't know this, but I remember this because this happened during I believe the latter, like towards the end of the Wednesday Night Wars, and they did had beef, and of course Santos and at the time Swerve Strickland had a feud. So this is kind of like a callback to that NXT feud. So thankfully now Hit Row is getting something more serious than that stupid Maximum Male Models angle they had for so long. So now they get something that's really okay. We're going to see Top Dollar do his thing. We're going to see Adonis do his thing. We're going to see BFAB do her thing. Selena. So it's like, all right, this is going to be good. So now the interesting thing is who's going to be the third man for Hit Row. Interesting. Interesting how that's going to play out. So we get that. Then we get before that, Selena Vega, she said, "I'm back, but I'm not alone." And then Santos, he says, "SmackDown is ours, and stay safe." It was like, ooh, okay. Then there was a video of the QR code, and it was basically the bunny landing on an X and then burning up, and then tomorrow, and then there were some secret codes. This whole time after SmackDown and stuff like that, nobody deciphered the freaking language. Like, it was tomorrow night, the date, but it was like some wording and everything. It was like, all right, I don't know what this is. It's like, I'm not looking this up. It's like, all right, whatever. But then after that, you had the Raquel Rodriguez Shotzi versus Sonya Deville and Xia Li. Like, this match felt like 5 minutes. Like, this was not even something that you see regularly from all 4 women, where we've seen them work in NXT and just put out like impressive matches. And we've seen them, of course, on SmackDown have some matches that was like, oh man, this is really good. But this match just felt rushed. It didn't feel like it wasn't so much they weren't given enough time. It felt like they weren't supposed to get enough time, if that makes any sense. It just felt like it was like, all right, we're going to put this out here, but we got to keep it going to this. Like, we have to get here. So this is, in the meantime, we'll do this, but we're going to get there. And that's how it came across on the TV screen. Granted, that may not be their intentions. It's probably not their intentions, but that's how it came across, because it was so quick. Boom, boom, boom. Like, it was just, I don't want to call it chaos, but just every woman was in the ring and they did their moves and boom, boom, boom. And then, the Tejano bomb, 1, 2, 3. That was it. It was like, all right. Then we get a backstage, shot of the Brawling Brutes. Then we get a video package hyping up the Ronda Rousey Liv Morgan match, which I can't wait to see that tomorrow. That is going to be a very good match. Then we get Karrion Kross and Scarlett. They come to the ring. And one thing nobody's paid attention to, and it's Karrion Kross's jacket. On the left side, he has these, it's like triangles, and it's red outline, like red triangles in between, like it's red and black triangles. And I don't know if that's alluding to the White Rabbits or what have you, but it is something I'm surprised nobody's put 2 and 2 together. We'll see at Extreme Rules if that plays out. So they come to the ring, and McIntyre, he just attacks them. Security breaks them up. As they're breaking them up, you see that, they have the strap match, because it is going to be a strap match at Extreme Rules, which that's going to be very intense. And man, Karrion Kross laid into Drew McIntyre in this fiasco. Man, he laid into him with some. Man, he laid into him like you heard some pah, like it was like ooh damn. And I'm surprised they didn't like McIntyre didn't like take a picture of any welts on his back or anything. Not yet. They might post it tomorrow or something like that to hype up the Extreme Rules. But I'm surprised they didn't post it right after it happened, or at least an hour or so like that. Like I didn't see anything like that on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or anything. But it's gonna be a really good match. That strap match between Karrion Kross and McIntyre. Then we get the 6-man tag. We get the Usos and Sami Zayn versus New Day. And Kofi and Xavier, they come out and they're just doing this. And they're like, all right. And then the music hits. It's Braun Strowman. And as you see Braun Strowman come to the ring, you see Jimmy Uso like this. He's like, oh. And you see Jey Uso and Sami Zayn going back and forth. It's like, why did you got to open up your big mouth? Like, why did you got to do this? Like, man, this is this. This was a fun match. This was a fun, entertaining match. The way this match ended, it's interesting that they had this match right before the main event. Me personally, I would have switched it because of the crowd reaction. The crowd was into it, and this was a really good match. All 6 guys did a terrific job. They got their spots in. Sami and Jey Uso just furthered this. There was so much dissension that they displayed between Jey Uso and Sami Zayn. Jey Uso, the whole hothead aspect that they played into at the start of SmackDown, they just built on it. Jey Uso's the hothead. Jey Uso's the hothead. Like he was steadily arguing with Sami Zayn, and then they were arguing, and it cost them the match. It pretty much did, because once Strowman got in there, he cleaned house. Then Sami and Jey, they were outside, and then there was a point where Strowman, the running train on the outside the ring, he shoulder blocks both men, and it was crazy because it was actually an accident that Jey Uso knocked over Michael Cole, and Michael Cole, he felt like he got hit. Like it wasn't planned, but he got hit. They took out Cole, and then you had Jimmy Uso in the ring, and he's just talking. He's like, yeah, we're the ones. And then Strowman's looking, and Kofi was able to kick him, put him in like their finishing move was similar to the Demolition Action Smash, but it was more, Kofi did the top rope stomp, pinned him, 1, 2, 3. So that adds to the issues between Sami Zayn and Jey Uso. So it's going to be interesting how this plays out for next week on SmackDown, when we know how Roman Reigns and the Tribal Chief does not like when the Usos lose. So going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And that's really good storytelling that you build, and you're like, man, what is Roman going to do? What is Roman going to do? And they kept playing. It's like, uh-oh, we know the Tribal Chief is not going to be happy. And it's like, man, it was pretty interesting. So from there, we get a backstage segment where you see Mansoor and Mace laid out from Maximum Male Models. And Max Dupree is like, what are you doing? What are you doing, Max? What are you doing, Max? He's like, do not call me that. Do not call me that. I am not Max. I am L.A. Knight. So, unconventional means we get L.A. Knight returning to his old gimmick, which is, thank God. So, that's another thing that's interesting. It's like, okay, how is this going to play out with Maximum Male Models? Are they going to try to attack L.A. Knight? Just interesting, simple curiosity. What's going to happen next? And that's fun. That's what you want in a wrestling program. Mind you, the interest and intrigue isn't at a very high level, but it's at a level where it's like, man, very simple. It's like, man, I really want to see what's going to happen. Just boom. It works. Then the main event, you had Sheamus versus Gunther for the Intercontinental World Championship. This match wasn't to the level that it was for their match at Clash at the Castle. Cool thing, they did mention PWG and progress with Gunther holding those championships. Um, Before they got to the match, of course, there was another White Rabbit video. Same thing. It's like uh, October 8th, 2022, and then they had that weird lettering and everything. But man, this was a physical match, like always. Yeah, I would say it wasn't as physical as the first match, but it had elements of that was physical. Sheamus did not do the 20 uh, forearm strikes or anything like that. He did two, and uh, Gunther blocked it. They did emphasize on commentary. Shout out to Wade Barrett. This was his debut as the SmackDown color commentary because the WWE's changed all their announcers and everything. They did emphasize this is the working man's title. So that's a good callback to the 80s when it was pretty much um, the guys that put on the best wrestlers. Those are the guys who had the Intercontinental title. So that's really cool callback. I like that, and that's going to be interesting to see where that goes because they did emphasize a lot of times this is the working man's title. So it's like, keep that in mind. There was a bunch of "This is awesome" chants. Then there was a point in the match where it was very interesting. Like, was that a botch? Did they mess it up? So Sheamus had Gunther in a submission hold, and Gunther's reaching for the ropes, and he's like, oh, and then he goes like twice, and then he's reaching for it, and the ref's like, no, 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 he didn't. It's like, oh, no, that was he tapped, like, oh, like, from that moment, that's when the match got really weird. You had Imperium come down, and Vinci and Kaiser, they're cheering on Gunther. Then you had the Brawling Brutes come out, and Ridge Holland and Butch come out. They're fighting and everything, and Vinci passes Gunther Shillelagh, and then Gunther hits Sheamus with the Lele, pins him 1, 2, 3. That was it. It was like, oh man, like if it wasn't for that ending, like this would have been a very fantastic match. And it's interesting because it was like maybe Sheamus should have won, but of course they want to protect Gunther and build him up. So it was just a really interesting way that they went about this whole angle. And of course we know there's going to be probably a few more matches. I can't wait for the Butch versus Gunther match, which we'll probably end up getting in Ridge Holland versus Gunther. So it's gonna be pretty fun. But overall, man, this was a good show. I'm not gonna say anything was terrible and like, oh my god, it was this. Except for the women's match that was 5 minutes, it just felt rushed. Like it really didn't feel like you could connect with it. Like other matches that Raquel Rodriguez, Shotzi, Xia Li, and Sonya Deville have been in. Like it just didn't. It was like, okay. It was like boom, boom, boom. It was like rushed. But man, the big thing to come out of this, besides the White Rabbit, I mean, we kind of heavily suspect who it is, Bray Wyatt. But man, the Jey Uso Sami Zayn dynamic is so freaking hilarious, entertaining, and it's engaging, and it piques your curiosity. It's like, man, what's gonna happen? What's Roman gonna do? And now, because you have Solo Sikoa, now you have that added element. So it's like, where is this gonna go? Where is this gonna play out? Are they gonna kick Sami out? Are they gonna keep him there? Is Roman gonna force these guys to be in a tag team and not have anybody's help from the bloodline? They're gonna have to figure it out. What's gonna happen? And that's cool. Like Sami Zayn has made the bloodline so much more interesting than what it was 3-4 months ago. Like he's made it so much more interesting that you're just like, man, every time they come on the screen, man, I gotta watch this. Man, I gotta watch this. And that's a complete 180 to how the bloodline was a few months ago. We're just like, man, it's the same thing. We're the ones. Acknowledge me. Wise man, tribal. Like, it was just like repetitious and just formulaic. And now it's just like Sami Zayn just added a bolt of energy to this whole bloodline and their story and just their presentation. It's just like, all right, man, this is fun. Let's go for this ride. Wherever this is going, let's just go, because this is fun. So that is my review for the October 7th episode of WWE Smackdown. Yes, the season premiere. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification so that way you are notified when the House of Wrestling drops its latest content. Follow me, Dedrian180, on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that,